Have you ever wondered why lately nothing feels right? Why the rooms that once felt alive now make your heart ache? Why the people you used to feel safe with now drain you? What if this distance isn't depression? It's divine direction. Because sometimes when Allah chooses you, He hides you. He takes you away from what you thought was home, so He can teach you where home truly is. Stay till the end. What you're about to hear might finally make sense of every season you thought was punishment, when it was actually preparation. You feel out of place because Allah is pulling you closer to Him. Sometimes you look around and feel like the whole world is moving, and you're standing still. People laugh, plan, chase, succeed, but something inside you just feels disconnected. You can't explain it. You can't even name it. It's as if the world that once felt like home suddenly feels foreign, and you begin to wonder, what happened to me? But what if nothing went wrong? What if something finally went right? What if that discomfort isn't the end of your belonging, but the beginning of your awakening? Because when Allah decides to draw you closer, He doesn't do it through comfort. He does it through emptiness. He removes the laughter that once distracted you. He silences the noise that once numbed you. He closes doors that once gave you identity, so that you can finally hear the whisper of truth again. You start noticing how hollow conversations feel, how exhausting small talk has become. You realize that the more you grow, the less room you have for what once entertained your heart. And this realization scares you at first, because you think, why am I changing? Why can't I connect anymore? But in reality, you're not changing. You're returning. Returning to the fitra you were born, with the pure version of you that remembered Allah effortlessly. The version of you that once felt peace not through people, but through presence. Not through attention, but through connection. Not through noise, but through stillness. So Allah, in His mercy, begins to pull you out of the places that drowned your spirit. He lets you sit alone, so you can remember that you were never truly alone. He lets you feel unseen by people, so you can learn how deeply seen you are by Him. You'll notice it late at night, when the lights are off and everyone else seems to belong somewhere. You'll feel that ache in your chest, that soft pull inside your soul that says, you were made for something more. That's not sadness. That's your soul remembering home. Maybe you once belonged to crowds, to friendships built on laughter and routine. But lately, those things don't fill you anymore. The same faces, the same plans, the same rhythm, they now feel distant. You smile, but it feels forced. You talk, but it feels shallow. You go out, but it drains you. Because you've reached the stage of transformation where your heart can no longer settle for artificial peace. Allah is quietly saying, I want you back. He's not punishing you, He's purifying you. You've been searching for belonging in people, but people change. You've been searching for meaning in places, but places fade. You've been searching for happiness in moments, but moments end. So Allah breaks the illusion gently, perfectly, painfully. He lets you feel the ache of being misplaced, so you can finally seek the one place where you'll never be misplaced again. You'll notice small signs. You'll feel heavy in crowds that gossip. You'll lose interest in conversations that once made you laugh. You'll crave silence, and that silence will start healing you more than people ever could. Because the more Allah fills your heart, the less space the world has inside it. He's not isolating you. He's insulating you from energy that would have ruined your peace, from people who would have dimmed your faith, from patterns that would have kept you spiritually asleep. So yes, you may feel different, but that's the point. Different is where destiny begins. Allah separates before He elevates. He hides before He reveals. He empties before He fills. Every tear that falls in confusion is washing away attachment. Every sigh that escapes your heart is releasing what you were never meant to keep. And slowly, quietly, without you realizing, you begin to change. Your priorities shift. Your desires soften. You start saying no to things that pull you away from peace, and yes to things that pull you closer to sincerity. You start finding beauty in things others overlook. The sound of rain, the stillness after prayer, the way dawn light touches your face and reminds you that you're still here, still guided, still held, still loved. And even though no one may understand what's happening inside you, you'll feel a calm you can't explain, because Allah is near. And nearness doesn't always come through happiness. Sometimes it comes through emptiness that forces you to look up. So, if you feel like you don't belong anywhere right now, pause, breathe. You're not lost. You're being positioned. You're being refined. You're being redirected toward what will last forever. This phase isn't rejection, it's redirection. This distance isn't loss, it's love. This silence isn't punishment, it's preparation. You've walked long enough among people who never understood your soul. Now, it's time to walk with the one who created it. Sometimes your soul becomes tired, not because of work, not because of people, but because it's been living too long, away from what feeds it. And when that happens, you start to drift from the world. Not physically, but spiritually. You notice yourself pulling back. You stop chasing crowds. You stop fighting to be seen. Because deep down, you finally realize being seen by the world means nothing if you're unseen by the one who matters most. This feeling of not belonging is sacred. It's Allah's way of shaking you awake from the dream of fit in. He whispers into your heart, you were never meant to fit in. You were meant to stand out through faith. The world tells you, be louder. Allah teaches you, be truer. The world says, prove yourself. Allah says, purify yourself. That's why He's pulling you away from the noise, so that the world's voices can't compete with His. You'll have days where you miss the old you, the version that smiled easily, laughed with everyone, never overthought the meaning of life. But what you're feeling now, this inner restlessness, isn't sadness, it's spiritual growth. You've outgrown the comfort of distractions. You can't go back to who you were, because Allah has already shown you too much truth to unsee it. The same shows, songs, and people that once made you happy now leave you feeling empty, and you can't pretend anymore. That's not you being cold. That's you being called. You begin to crave deeper things, quiet mornings, meaningful conversations, sincere prayer, the kind of peace that can't be purchased or posted. Sometimes you'll feel lonely, even among good people. Not because they're bad, but because your soul is being tuned to a different frequency, one where only peace can survive. You'll learn that belonging isn't about who you sit next to. It's about what your soul sits with. And when your soul sits with remembrance, you'll find peace even in silence. Every season of life teaches you something different. The crowded seasons teach you patience. The empty seasons teach you purpose. And the lonely seasons teach you presence. How to be still, how to be strong, how to stand in the middle of uncertainty and still whisper, I trust you. That whisper is worth more than 1,000 loud achievements, because in that moment, the distance between you and the world turns into closeness between you and your Creator. He's not taking away your belonging. He's restoring it to its rightful place. Maybe you've spent years trying to fit into spaces that were never designed for you. Maybe you kept forcing yourself into friendships that only left you smaller, quieter, weaker. So Allah allowed the pain of separation to teach you the sweetness of solitude. You learn that silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. It's full of presence. It's full of love you couldn't hear when life was too loud. In that silence, you begin to notice how everything around you points back to Him. The way the sky softens at sunset, the way your chest feels lighter after prayer, the way tears dry faster when you surrender. It's almost as if the world itself starts speaking a language you can finally understand. You were never alone. You were just distracted. And so you stop chasing belonging in human hands. You start searching for it in divine moments. In the quiet after prayer, in the softness of forgiveness, in the feeling of being completely seen by the one who never misunderstands you. Your heart begins to heal in ways no one notices. Your peace becomes private. Your connection becomes constant, and your belonging becomes heavenly. That's when you realize something powerful. You were never truly lost. You were being led. Every heartbreak, every rejection, every lonely night was a step back toward your original home, the place where your soul once rested in peace before it ever knew this world. That's why nothing here feels permanent, because it isn't. Every connection here is temporary, but the one who keeps calling you back, that connection is eternal. So, next time you feel out of place, don't panic. Don't rush to fill the silence. Just breathe and remember, you're not falling apart. You're falling into alignment. You're not losing your circle. You're finding your center. You're not being abandoned. You're being adopted back into mercy. Because when Allah pulls you closer, He doesn't always use joy. Sometimes He uses emptiness. He takes away everything that kept you distracted, so you can finally notice the only presence that never left. And in that awareness, you'll find peace deeper than belonging. You'll find a home that never moves, a love that never fades, and a connection that never breaks. That home is not in people. That home is not in places. That home is in Him. The isolation you hate is the training you need. There will come a time in your life when silence becomes louder than every voice you once chased. When friends disappear, plans crumble, and your phone barely lights up anymore, and you start asking yourself, why does it feel like everyone left at once? But what you don't see yet is that the isolation you hate right now is actually the classroom where Allah is teaching you strength, patience, and purpose. You see, when Allah wants to build something special inside you, He removes the distractions that would interfere with His work. He takes away people, attention, noise, so He can sit with your heart in peace. He's not punishing you, He's preparing you. Because every chosen soul must go through separation before it carries elevation. It's a divine pattern written through time. Prophet Yusuf was isolated in a well. Prophet Musa was separated from his home. Prophet Muhammad found peace in a cave, away from crowds. Every prophet, every saint, every soul destined for depth was first sent into silence, because silence is where sincerity is born. You can't hear divine wisdom when you're surrounded by the noise of validation. You can't see who you truly are when everyone else's opinions are clouding your reflection. So Allah places you alone, not because you're unworthy, but because you're being redefined. You think you've been left behind, but in truth, you've been selected. The world sees loneliness as emptiness, but heaven sees it as construction. Because when Allah isolates you, He's not removing your blessings. He's building your foundation. There are things you can only learn in solitude. Patience that can't be taught by people. Strength that can't be borrowed from friends. And faith that can't grow under comfort. It's in isolation that you realize how much you depended on everything except Allah. How much of your peace came from things that could be taken away. How much of your identity was built on being seen instead of being sincere. So He takes it all, not to hurt you, but to heal you. He breaks every false attachment, so you can finally attach to what never breaks. You'll sit in your room one day, with no one calling, no messages buzzing, and that's when you'll realize you still have breath, you still have prayer, you still have hope, and that's enough. Because that's where transformation begins. In that moment, Allah whispers through your silence. Now that it's quiet, listen. Maybe your friends left. Maybe your family doesn't understand you. Maybe you've been waiting for someone to check on you, and no one does. But remember this: Allah removes the crowd before He gives you the crown. He isolates before He elevates. Because where He's taking you, not everyone is meant to follow. You can't carry old habits into new blessings. You can't build spiritual strength while leaning on human validation. And you can't hear divine guidance while you're surrounded by endless noise. So the distance you feel isn't abandonment, it's alignment. You're not losing connection. You're being connected to something higher. In the world's eyes, you look quiet. In heaven's eyes, you're being rewritten. Every tear you cry in private, every night you spend questioning, every moment you sit alone and wonder if you'll ever feel whole again. Those are the very moments your heart is learning how to stand without support. You're being trained for independence. Not worldly independence, but spiritual independence. Because one day, Allah will send you into a mission, a responsibility, a life stage that requires you to stand when no one else can. And for that, He has to train you in silence first. He has to teach you how to pray through loneliness, how to smile through pain, how to find joy without needing applause. So, when people leave, you stop panicking, you start praying. When doors close, you stop forcing, you start trusting. When life grows quiet, you stop complaining, you start listening. That's when you begin to transform. You might think you've lost everything, but look again. In the quiet, you still have your heart beating. You still have a purpose waiting. You still have a creator watching. And that's more than enough. You don't need to be surrounded to be supported. Sometimes, the deepest form of love is the silence Allah wraps around your soul. It's in that silence that He fixes what words can't. It's in that distance that He heals what people couldn't. It's in that stillness that He prepares you for a future that noise would have ruined. So don't run from isolation. Walk through it. Because that loneliness you feel is not punishment, it's purification. Sometimes Allah closes every door around you, not to cage you in, but to stop you from walking into rooms that would have dimmed your light. You call it loneliness, but heaven calls it protection. You keep asking, why me? Why now? But maybe the real question is, what is Allah teaching me here? Because the same silence you're trying to escape is the silence where you'll finally learn how to hear Him. And the same solitude you keep fighting is the solitude where He's preparing you for the version of you that you prayed to become. When Allah wants to make you strong, He first teaches you to stand alone. He takes away the hands you were holding, so you can realize that His hand was always enough. He lets people misunderstand you, so you learn to stop chasing validation. He allows you to be unseen, so you can learn the sweetness of being seen only by Him. You may cry for what's gone, but He smiles at what's growing, because He knows if you could see what He's building, you'd thank Him for what He took. There will be nights where the silence feels unbearable. You'll stare at your ceiling, feeling the weight of every unanswered prayer, every distance, every delay. But those nights are sacred. They are training camps for your soul. That's where your heart learns endurance. That's where your patience becomes powerful. That's where your faith stops being theory and turns into truth. You'll wake up one morning and realize that the same solitude that once broke you is now your peace. The same silence that once frightened you now feels safe, because you'll recognize that you were never alone. You were in divine company the whole time. When you walk through isolation long enough, you start seeing how temporary everything truly is. People come and go, support fades, voice quiet down, but Allah remains. Constant, patient, unchanging. He becomes your closest friend, your quiet listener, your anchor when nothing else feels steady. And you realize something beautiful. Maybe isolation wasn't punishment. Maybe it was an invitation to experience a closeness that the noise of the world had been drowning out. There's a secret beauty in being unseen, because when no one's watching, your sincerity has room to grow. You no longer pray to be noticed. You pray to be understood. You no longer act to impress. You act to express gratitude. You stop performing faith for people and start living faith for yourself. In isolation, you learn who you truly are, not who the world told you to be. You learn what peace really means, not comfort, but contentment. And you learn that the truest strength is being able to say, I'm okay even here, because He's with me. Maybe you've been asking for strength, so He gave you situations that required it. Maybe you've been praying for patience, so He gave you delays to practice it. Maybe you asked for guidance, so He removed everything that distracted you from it. Isolation is where your prayers are answered, not in the way you expect, but in the way your soul truly needs. You start realizing that every test was tailor-made for your transformation. Every silence was filled with mercy you couldn't hear yet. Every pause was Allah saying, wait, I'm not done building you. Soon you'll look back and understand why He kept you hidden for so long. You weren't forgotten, you were being formed. He had to build your foundation, so that when you rise, you don't fall the moment the world applauds. He was teaching you quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't need recognition to keep going, the kind that doesn't depend on people to stay faithful, the kind that keeps glowing even in darkness. And that's the kind of strength isolation gives. It makes you steady. It makes you real. It makes you unshakable. So don't rush to escape your season of solitude. Let it finish its work, because this is where Allah is crafting you. He's shaping your heart for the places your ego can't enter. He's teaching your tongue to speak with sincerity. He's teaching your eyes to see beyond appearances. He's teaching your soul how to walk with peace, even when no one is beside you. The isolation you hate right now is the same place where your destiny is being written. One day, you'll step out of it, not bitter, but better, not weaker, but wiser, not empty, but full of light. And you'll understand, the silence you once begged to escape was actually the whisper of mercy, training you for everything you were praying for. You don't belong everywhere because you carry a light not everyone can handle. There will come a time when you start noticing something strange. You walk into a room full of laughter, but your heart feels quiet. You try to fit into old circles, but something inside you whispers, you don't belong here anymore. You used to love being around everyone. Now, the same gatherings feel draining. You used to talk endlessly. Now, silence feels safer. And you begin to think something is wrong with you. But nothing is wrong. You've just changed, not by accident, but by design. Because when Allah chooses you, He changes your environment before you realize you've outgrown it. He gives your soul a light so bright that some rooms simply can't contain it anymore. You see, not everyone can handle your light. Some people will feel exposed by it. Some will mistake your peace for pride. Some will distance themselves because your growth reminds them of what they're avoiding within themselves. And that's okay. You weren't made to dim your light to make others comfortable. You were made to walk with it quietly, humbly, fearlessly, even if it means walking alone. Light isn't loud. It doesn't scream to be seen. It simply shines. And that's what Allah is teaching you in this phase of your life. How to carry your light without needing the world to approve of it. Sometimes He gives you spiritual clarity that makes you different. You start sensing things others can't. You can feel the heaviness of a room, the emptiness in laughter, the pain behind someone's smile. Your heart becomes sensitive, not weak, but aware. And that awareness can feel like a burden at first. Because once your eyes are open, you can't go back to blindness. You'll start noticing the emptiness in things you once chased. Endless scrolling, meaningless talk, shallow praise. What used to entertain you now hurts your soul. What used to distract you now disturbs your peace. That's not you becoming dull. That's your soul learning discernment. Allah gave you sight, not just to look, but to see. And when you truly see, you stop belonging in places built on illusions. You'll start recognizing that not every connection is sacred. Not every friendship is meant to last. Not every space deserves your presence. Some people will misunderstand your quietness. They'll think you've become distant, cold, or self-centered, but only you know the truth. You've simply started choosing peace over performance. You've started choosing meaning over movement. You've started protecting your energy like it's a gift, because it is. You carry light now, a light that came from your wounds, from every heartbreak you prayed through, from every night you stayed faithful when your faith was fading. That light didn't come easy, and Allah will not let it be wasted in the wrong places. So He'll close doors that your heart wanted open. He'll end conversations that once felt comfortable. He'll separate you from people who can't grow with you. Not because you're better than them, but because you're being elevated beyond them. He's protecting your growth. He's preserving your glow. He's preparing you for a new level of purpose. And that level requires solitude, sincerity, and strength. You see, when you carry light, you attract both seekers and shadows. Some will come closer because they need your warmth. Others will move away because they can't handle the reflection it casts on them. But your task isn't to chase or convince. Your task is to keep shining, even if they leave, even if they misunderstand, even if no one claps for you, because your light was never meant to be performance. It was meant to be presence. And presence doesn't beg to belong. It just exists steady, silent, sacred. So if you've been feeling out of place lately, if you've been walking through life wondering why connections feel distant, why energy feels heavy, why your circle keeps shrinking, remember this truth. It's not rejection, it's refinement. Allah is filtering your surroundings so your light can breathe. You might cry during this process because losing people who once felt like home hurts. It hurts when the ones you helped stop showing up. It hurts when your sincerity gets misunderstood. It hurts when you have to silence your soul just to fit in, and you finally refuse to do that anymore. But remember, even the sun loses visibility during storms, but it never stops shining. The clouds only hide it temporarily. Your light might be hidden right now, but it's not gone. It's being protected. It's being preserved for the right people, the right time, the right purpose. Allah is teaching you something sacred in this isolation. That belonging doesn't mean being surrounded. Belonging means being understood. And sometimes, the only one who fully understands you is the one who created you. So, He separates you. He takes you away from places that make you shrink and brings you to places that make you see. You're learning that silence doesn't mean emptiness. It means preservation. You're learning that walking alone doesn't mean being lost. It means being chosen. You're learning that peace doesn't come from belonging everywhere. It comes from belonging to the right one. There will be moments when you'll sit in silence and ask yourself, Why do I feel so different from everyone around me? You'll watch people laugh at things that don't move you. You'll see them chase what your soul has already outgrown. And somewhere deep within, you'll feel like a stranger. But that strangeness is not a curse, it's proof that your light is real. Allah has taken you out of imitation and placed you into authenticity. He's teaching you to live by conviction, not by crowd. And that shift, though painful, is where transformation begins. When light enters the heart, it brings both beauty and burden. Beauty, because it shows you truth. Burden, because it exposes everything that isn't. You'll start noticing how people pretend, how smiles hide wounds, how the world celebrates noise but forgets meaning. And that awareness can feel heavy at times, because the brighter your soul becomes, the more clearly you see the shadows around you. But don't mistake awareness for arrogance. This isn't about being better than others. It's about being more responsible for what you now know. Allah didn't give you light to sit in judgment. He gave it to you so that you may guide with gentleness, so that your character becomes a mirror for truth, so that your peace becomes dawah without words. When you carry light, you carry a responsibility. Not to fix everyone, but to protect your flame. You'll learn that not every space deserves your energy. You'll learn that not every argument deserves your voice. And you'll realize that sometimes silence speaks louder than defense, because your light shines most when you stop trying to prove it. It's not your job to convince people to understand you. It's your job to keep glowing, even when they don't. There will be those who try to test your patience, those who mock your calmness, those who mistake your gentleness for weakness. But what they don't know is it takes more strength to stay kind. In a world that thrives on chaos, that's what your light is teaching you. How to stay soft in a hard world, how to stay hopeful in hopeless places, how to keep shining even when no one appreciates your glow. You may not realize it now, but your presence is changing things. Your patience is calming storms you can't even see. Your faith is planting seeds in hearts that have forgotten how to believe. Your forgiveness is rewriting the energy of entire rooms. That's the unseen power of your light. It doesn't demand attention. It quietly transforms. People won't always say it, but they feel it. They feel peace when you enter the room. They feel truth when you speak gently. They feel safety when you listen without judgment. They feel inspired when you rise after falling. That's what divine light does. It reminds others of what's possible. It reminds them that goodness still exists. And yes, that kind of light attracts both beauty and envy. Some will love you for it, others will envy you for it. But you can't turn it off to make them comfortable. Your job is to keep it pure, not to please people, but to please the one who gave it to you. There will be times when you'll want to hide it, times when you'll dim yourself just to blend in. But blending in has never been your purpose. You were made to illuminate, even if that means standing alone. Light doesn't need company to be powerful. One candle can destroy a room full of darkness. And your soul, if it stays sincere, can change hearts without saying a word. You'll reach a stage where you stop forcing your presence where it's not valued. You'll stop explaining your peace to those committed to misunderstanding it. You'll stop lowering your frequency just to be understood. Because peace isn't found in convincing people. It's found in obeying the one who already understands you completely. And when you reach that level of surrender, you'll finally feel light, not just in your heart, but in your entire being. You'll stop carrying the weight of needing to belong. You'll stop begging to be seen, because you'll finally realize the one who sees your heart was never blind to your struggle. The reason you don't belong everywhere is because your soul is being preserved for sacred spaces. You're not meant to sit at every table, not meant to be understood by every mind, not meant to be accepted by every crowd. Your presence is medicine, and Allah decides where that medicine is needed. Sometimes He'll hide you to protect your purity. Sometimes He'll place you in someone's path to remind them of Him. And sometimes He'll keep you apart entirely, so that your light can grow stronger in solitude before He reveals it. So, don't curse the isolation. Don't question the distance, because light grows best in darkness. You'll know this phase is almost complete, when peace replaces the need to explain. When you stop chasing what's not aligned with your purpose, when you wake up one day and realize you're no longer offended by who left, no longer shaken by who stayed, no longer desperate to belong, you're just content. Content in knowing that your worth is not measured by who accepts you, but by who created you. And that's when you truly shine. Not because the world finally noticed, but because you finally stopped needing it to. You don't belong everywhere, because everywhere cannot handle what Allah placed inside you. Your kindness, your softness, your quiet strength, they're rare. And rare things are not found in common places. So, when life separates you, don't fight it. It's not loss, it's divine organization. Allah is moving you from places of noise to places of purpose. He's reminding you that the light He gave you was never meant to impress people. It was meant to guide you back to Him. So, walk with your light, even when it makes others uncomfortable, even when no one understands it, even when it costs you company. Because the day will come when that same light you carried in silence will be the reason someone else finds their way home. And that's the miracle of divine light. It doesn't need to be seen by many to change the world. It just needs to be real. You're not misunderstood. You're just speaking the language of the awakened. There comes a point in your journey when you stop feeling understood. People listen, but they don't really hear you. You try to express what's happening inside the shifts, the sensitivity, the depth, and all they can say is, "You've changed." Yes, you have, but not in the way they think. You've changed because your heart has opened. You've changed because your eyes now see differently. You've changed because the illusions that once felt real no longer control you. You've changed because Allah has awakened you, and awakening always separates you from the sleeping crowd. Before this, you used to blend in easily. You laughed at what everyone laughed at. You feared what everyone feared. You chased what everyone chased. But now, something inside you feels different. You crave peace more than popularity. You crave sincerity more than attention. You crave quiet more than conversation. And because of that, people around you start getting confused. They don't understand your silence. They don't understand why you pull back. They don't understand why the things that once made you excited now leave you calm. They'll say, "You've become distant." They'll say, "You don't care anymore." But the truth is, you just woke up. You're not rejecting them. You're just no longer willing to sleep beside them. Awakening is not about superiority. It's about sincerity. It's about seeing life for what it really is, and realizing how little of it is actually worth fighting over. When Allah opens your eyes, you start noticing the games people play, the masks, the performances, the competitions disguised as friendships. And you quietly step back, not because you hate anyone, but because your heart refuses to participate in what drains its peace. You're not being cold, you're being called. Called towards something purer, something quieter, something eternal. This is why awakened souls often walk alone for a while, because they no longer speak the language of the world. They speak the language of truth. They feel the vibration of honesty in every word they say. They can sense energy before sentences are formed. And they can no longer pretend that everything is fine when their soul knows otherwise. You'll find yourself becoming quieter around certain people. You'll feel physically tired after meaningless conversations. You'll crave time in nature. You'll want to sit by water. You'll look at the sky longer than usual, because your soul is learning to breathe again. The awakened heart doesn't chase noise. It follows peace. And peace often whispers it, never shouts. People will label you strange. They always do when they don't understand light. They'll say you're too deep, too sensitive, too serious. But those are the same words used for every heart Allah has ever refined. Sensitivity is not weakness, it's awareness. Depth is not heaviness, it's clarity. Seriousness is not distance, it's direction. You're simply speaking a language their hearts haven't learned yet. The language of reflection, the language of stillness, the language of souls that have been through storms and found peace in surrender. And one day, those same people who called you strange will come back when their own storms begin. They'll seek the calm you carry, because peace is universal. It just takes some people longer to remember how to understand it. Being awakened means you start loving differently. You stop loving people for how they make you feel, and start loving them for what they remind you of, for the traces of divine mercy you see in them. You stop attaching to outcomes. You start trusting the process. You stop begging for answers. You start finding beauty in the silence of waiting. You realize that every delay, every heartbreak, every closed door was never against you. It was your training ground. Your awakening didn't come easy. It came through tears, through loneliness, through confusion, and that's why it's sacred, because it cost you something. People who haven't awakened yet will misunderstand your peace as laziness, your patience as weakness, your silence as disinterest. Let them. You don't need to defend what came from heaven, because when you're awakened, your validation changes. You no longer crave likes, you crave sincerity. You no longer need to prove you're right, you need to stay righteous. You no longer want to be everywhere, you just want to be where Allah is pleased with you. This is what growth feels like. It's confusing to the world, but comforting to the soul. The world you used to know starts to lose color. But at the same time, the unseen world within you starts to bloom. You start noticing how small moments carry massive meaning. The smile of a stranger, the sound of rain, the quiet relief after prayer. You start crying for no reason, not from sadness, but from gratitude, because awakening teaches you how to feel again, not with the mind that calculates, but with the heart that remembers. You're not misunderstood, you're just seeing life through a different lens now, a lens that magnifies meaning where others only see routine. When Allah removes people, He's making room for peace. There will come a day when you'll wake up and realize that the people who once filled your world are now only names in your memory. And at first, that realization will sting, because love, once planted, doesn't die easily. It leaves echoes. You'll scroll through old messages, listen to songs that used to belong to you and them, and a quiet ache will rise inside your chest. You'll wonder, why did they leave? What changed? Was I not enough? But what you don't yet see is that Allah's mercy often comes disguised as subtraction. He removes people not to break you, but to bless you. He closes doors not to hurt you, but to protect your peace, the peace that was slowly disappearing, while you were trying so hard to keep everyone happy. Sometimes you love someone so deeply that you can't see how much they're draining you. You convince yourself that if you just give a little more, they'll finally stay. If you're more patient, more forgiving, more kind, they'll finally see your worth. But peace built on exhaustion is not peace. And Allah, in His kindness, will not let you live without real peace. So, when He removes certain people, He's not rejecting your heart, He's rescuing it. He's saving you from nights of confusion, from words that cut deeper than knives, from relationships that took and took until there was nothing left to give. Sometimes the most merciful thing Allah does is end what you were too afraid to walk away from. He watches you hold on to people who keep wounding you, and out of love, He whispers, "No more." Then, suddenly, they leave. Maybe they ghost you. Maybe they betray you. Maybe they change overnight. And you stand there shocked, broken in silence, wondering why it happened. But somewhere beneath that pain is a peace waiting to be born. Because endings in this world are often beginnings in the unseen. You might not realize it yet, but the space that's empty right now isn't a void, it's preparation. It's where Allah plans to plant something better. Something that won't require you to beg. Something that won't make you question your worth. Something that will hold your heart gently, not carelessly. He had to remove the wrong people, so the right peace could finally enter. He had to make you sit in silence, so that you could hear His voice again. There's a reason you feel lighter after certain people leave. It's not because you stopped caring. It's because your soul finally stopped carrying what was never meant for it. You see, love is sacred, but not all love is aligned. Sometimes we confuse attachment with destiny and familiarity with peace. But peace doesn't live where your heart is constantly trembling. Peace doesn't grow where trust keeps dying. So Allah steps in. He separates you from what your eyes wanted, to give your heart what it needed. And yes, it hurts. It always hurts to lose someone you prayed for. It hurts to let go of the laughter, the shared dreams, the feeling of home that once lived inside them. But every tear you cry after their exit is washing away the illusion that you needed them to be complete. You don't. You never did. Allah was the calm in that connection all along. He's reminding you now that peace was never supposed to come through them. It was supposed to come with Him. When Allah removes people, He doesn't just take away noise. He restores clarity. You start hearing your own voice again. You start recognizing how much you tolerated just to avoid being alone. And you realize loneliness is lighter than fake companionship. Being alone is not the same as being abandoned. Being alone is the garden where your soul regrows. It's the pause between chapters where Allah rewrites your story in peace. Sometimes He removes people because your next level requires lighter luggage. You can't climb a mountain while carrying everyone from the valley. You can't rise spiritually while dragging hearts that never intended to rise with you. And you can't taste peace while feeding chaos. So He detaches you, gently but firmly. He ends certain stories before they end you. He separates you from what blocks your growth, even if it means separating you from people you love. That's not cruelty. That's divine precision. There are relationships that were never meant to last, not because they were evil, but because they served their purpose. They entered your life as lessons, not lifetimes. They were mirrors that showed you what needed healing. They were bridges that carried you to self-awareness. And once you learned the lesson, Allah removed the mirror. Once you crossed the bridge, He gently burned it. Not in anger, but in wisdom. He knows you. He knows what would have destroyed your softness if He hadn't intervened. So when people leave unexpectedly, thank the One who saw what you couldn't. You'll find, after a while, that you stop asking, "Why did they go?" and start whispering, "Thank you for letting me breathe again." The silence that once felt suffocating starts to feel sacred. The empty space that once felt lonely starts to feel peaceful, because now you're filled with what truly matters: tranquility, trust, and a new closeness to Allah. Feeling invisible is proof that Allah is protecting your value. There are days when you feel unseen. You walk into a room and it's like your presence doesn't register. You speak, but your words seem to dissolve in the air. You try your best, but no one notices. You give, and no one thanks you. You care, and no one returns it. And slowly, that quiet pain begins to grow inside you, a whisper that says, maybe I'm not important, maybe I don't matter. But that whisper is a lie, because invisibility in this world is not always a sign of neglect. Sometimes it's a sign of divine protection. When Allah hides you, it's never rejection. It's refinement. It's preservation. It's love disguised as silence. He hides you not because you're worthless, but because you're priceless. And priceless things are never displayed in open markets. They're kept in safes, guarded, unseen, untouched. He knows your heart, its sincerity, its purity, its softness, and He knows how easily that light could be misused by those who only take but never nurture. So, before the world can drain you, Allah covers you. He wraps you in invisibility, not to break you, but to protect what others might mishandle. Maybe you feel forgotten right now. Maybe your effort goes unseen. You show up for people, but they don't show up for you. You support, but no one checks if you're okay. And you wonder, why do I always have to be the strong one? But what if Allah made you unseen, so that your intention could finally become pure? So that you would stop performing goodness for applause and start doing it purely for Him? What if being unseen is how He's training your heart to love quietly, give sincerely, and expect reward only from Him? Invisibility is not the absence of value, it's the protection of it. Because sometimes being seen too early destroys what was meant to blossom later. Think of a seed underground. It's invisible, covered by dirt, unseen by the world. But underneath, it's growing. The roots are forming. The strength is building. If someone uncovered it too soon, it would die. That's how your life feels right now. Buried, hidden, unnoticed. But Allah is growing you in silence. Your roots are deepening. Your foundation is forming. He's protecting you from premature exposure, because the light you carry isn't ready to face the crowd yet. You don't need to be seen to be significant. You don't need recognition to be relevant. Even the stars are hidden during the day. But that doesn't mean they stopped shining. It just means their light is being saved for the night. Your night, your moment of visibility will come, but only when you're ready. Only when your light won't blind you. Only when your success won't destroy your sincerity. So if Allah has hidden you, it's because He's not done preparing you. You may not realize it yet, but invisibility is building your strength. Because when no one claps for you, you learn to keep going for the right reasons. When no one praises you, you learn to find joy in effort, not outcome. When no one acknowledges you, you learn to stop depending on people's eyes and start depending on Allah's sight. And that shift, that sacred transformation from wanting to be seen to wanting to be sincere, is the point where peace begins. One day you'll look back and realize that the silence that once made you cry was the soil that built your strength. You'll see that being hidden wasn't punishment, it was protection. Because had you been seen too soon, you might have been praised before you were ready, and fame would have crushed what faith was still forming. Allah hides those He's still shaping. He keeps them behind the curtain until the is complete. He hides them from people so they can learn to depend on Him. He hides them from attention so their hearts can breathe without pressure. And then, when the time is right, He reveals them to the world, polished, pure, and unshakable. So, if you're in a season of being unseen, don't resent it, respect it. You are in divine training. You are being refined, without witnesses. Your patience, your humility, your sincerity. These are being built in private, so they can stand strong in public. You are not invisible. You are being prepared. The world may not see your value yet, but heaven does. The one who wrote your story hasn't skipped your chapter. He's just writing it in silence. Sometimes Allah hides your success because He knows your heart is too soft to handle envy. Sometimes He hides your effort because He knows praise would make you forget the purpose. Sometimes He hides your light because He wants to teach you how to keep it burning even in darkness. You think no one's watching, but the angels are. Every moment of sincerity, every hidden act of kindness, every tear you wipe quietly, it's all being recorded. Heaven sees what earth ignores. And one day, when the time is right, Allah will reveal your value in such a way that no one will be able to deny it. But by then, you'll be so at peace that you won't even crave the validation. You'll have already learned that the only eyes that ever truly mattered were His. The world feels heavy because your soul remembers heaven. There are nights when your chest feels tight, and you can't explain why. You stare at the ceiling thinking, what's missing? You have food, a bed, a phone, a future, yet your heart aches as if something sacred is gone. That ache has a name. It's homesickness. Not for a place on earth, but for a place your soul once knew. A place of light, peace, and closeness to its Creator. You were never meant to feel complete here. This world was always meant to feel slightly wrong, slightly off, slightly empty, because your spirit was created in perfection. And perfection doesn't exist here. Every time you feel tired of this life, every time your heart feels heavy for no reason, it's your soul whispering, this isn't home. You're not broken. You're remembering a world before this world, where love had no fear, where peace never ended, where closeness to Allah was constant, and where joy had no cost. Now you live in a place of noise, of deadlines, of betrayal, of confusion, and your soul, gentle and eternal, feels suffocated inside a temporary cage. That's why even your happiest moments fade too quickly. That's why success never fully satisfies. That's why laughter sometimes ends with silence. Because this world, no matter how glittering, cannot give what heaven once gave. You were sent here on purpose, but not to settle to remember, to live, to struggle, to grow, to walk through darkness until your heart turns back to light. Every sadness you feel is a reminder. Every heartbreak is a messenger. Every longing that nothing in this world can fill is your soul's way of saying, don't forget where you came from. The body belongs to earth, but the soul belongs to eternity. And when you try to feed an eternal thing with temporary pleasures, it stays hungry. That hunger you feel at night, it's not depression, it's deprivation of meaning. It's your spirit begging to be fed with faith. Sometimes the world feels unbearably heavy because you're carrying it with your human hands, instead of surrendering it to the one who made it. You worry about provision, about people, about future plans, about mistakes that keep replaying in your head. And every worry tightens the knot in your chest. But the moment you whisper, I can't carry this alone, something inside begins to loosen. That's your soul remembering the peace it once had in submission. Peace isn't found when everything makes sense. Peace is found when you stop trying to make everything make sense. Your soul isn't tired because you're weak. It's tired because it's surrounded by things that don't match its nature. It was born from the breath of mercy, yet it's living in a world that glorifies hardness. It was made to worship, yet it's forced to compete. It was made to give, yet it's told to chase. So, of course, it feels heavy. You're trying to bloom in soil that was never meant to last. That heaviness isn't failure, it's longing. And longing, when understood, becomes guidance. There's a strange paradox in this journey. The closer you get to Allah, the more detached you feel from the world. Things you once loved lose their sparkle. People you once chased don't excite you anymore. Even victories start to feel hollow. It's not that life has lost meaning, it's that you've found a deeper one. You've begun to crave the unseen peace, more than the visible pleasure. You've started to measure life by presence, not possessions. And that shift, though isolating, is the beginning of true freedom. You'll start to realize that nothing here lasts. Not money, not youth, not company. And the more you witness things slip away, the more your heart whispers, "I'm tired of temporary." That's your soul aligning with its origin. It came from a place where everything was forever. Now it's trapped in a place where everything fades. No wonder it aches. But that ache is a gift, because without it, you'd settle. You'd think this world was enough. You'd forget the eternity waiting beyond the veil. So, the ache keeps you searching. It keeps you praying. It keeps you alive in the deepest sense. You may feel like you're falling apart, but you're actually falling back together, back into truth, back into remembrance, back into your real home. When Allah allows heaviness, it's not to crush you, it's to redirect you. He's reminding you that peace doesn't exist in the world. It exists in the connection between you and Him. Every time you pause and whisper, "I miss you," your soul sighs in relief. Because finally, someone listened to what it's been saying all along. There are days when you carry a strange sadness that has no story. No loss, no problem, yet your chest feels full of weight. It's the heaviness of a heart that remembers perfection while living among fragments. Your soul remembers a garden where nothing ever hurt. It remembers laughter that never ended. It remembers nearness that required no words. Now it wakes in a world where joy fades, where every smile carries an ending, and it quietly aches for what it once knew. That ache is mercy. It keeps you searching for something higher. It keeps you from falling in love with a temporary world. Sometimes you'll stand among crowds and still feel alone. You'll hear music, laughter, the rhythm of life, and yet you'll sense an emptiness no noise can fill. That emptiness isn't failure. It's your spirit reminding you that nothing created can replace the Creator. The reason hearts wander from moment to moment is because they were designed for eternity. They crave what doesn't fade, what doesn't end, what doesn't disappoint. And when they can't find it here, they ache not to give up, but to look up. You were never sent here to be comfortable. You were sent here to be conscious. Every frustration, every delay, every tear that falls for no reason, all of it is a call from heaven saying, "Don't forget where you belong." So when the world feels heavy, don't curse the weight, carry it back to prayer. Because prayer is the place where earth ends and heaven begins again inside you. Each time you bow, the burden lifts a little. Each time you whisper, the noise softens. Each time you trust, the unseen world opens one more door of peace. The truth is, you were created for two worlds at once, the physical and the spiritual. The body eats, sleeps, and decays. The soul remembers, believes, and longs. And every day you live here, you're trying to balance the two. The heaviness you feel is not weakness. It's the tension between dust and light. Feed only the body, and you'll always feel empty. Feed the soul, and even hunger feels holy. That's why some of the happiest people you've met had the least in this world, because they were full where it mattered. There's wisdom in every ache. When you lose a blessing, heaven is reminding you that nothing here lasts. When you lose a person, heaven is reminding you that love belongs to the one who gave it. When you lose direction, Heaven is reminding you to look beyond the map. The more you lose here, the lighter you become for there. That's why faith often grows in heartbreak, because pain forces you to loosen your grip on what was never permanent. One day, the world will feel heavy again, and that's okay. Let it. Let the weight pull you to your knees, because every time you fall in prayer, you rise in peace. Every sigh becomes worship when it's offered with trust. You'll begin to see the beauty in struggle, how every challenge trains your heart for eternity, how every test burns away attachment, how every dark night makes you crave the true dawn. That's the secret. The heavier the world feels, the closer heaven stands. So when your soul aches tonight, don't rush to distract it. Sit with it. Let it speak. Ask it what it's missing, and you'll hear it whisper, "I miss peace that doesn't end. I miss the nearness I once had." That's your reminder. You're not lost. You're longing for home. And that longing, that sacred homesickness, is the proof that your soul is still alive. The world will never feel light forever. It's designed to weigh you down until you remember to look up. And every time you do, the same unseen voice that brought you here will remind you gently, "This was never your destination. Keep walking. One day the heaviness will end. One day the ache will turn into arrival. And when your soul finally returns to the place it remembers, it will smile and say, 'Now I understand why the world never felt like home.'" You don't need to belong anywhere, just in prayer. There comes a moment when everything around you grows quiet. Not because life stopped, but because your soul finally did. It stops running, stops explaining, stops searching for a place to fit. You look around and realize that no matter how much you give, how much you try, you'll never truly belong anywhere in this world. And strangely, that realization doesn't destroy you. It frees you. Because maybe you were never created to belong in crowds. Maybe you were created to belong in sujud. Every place you thought was home has changed shape. People moved on. Conversations faded. Even the version of you that once smiled so easily has grown quiet. And you keep asking, "Where do I go now? Who do I become?" The answer isn't somewhere out there. It's somewhere above you. The safest home your soul will ever find is not in a person, not in a city, not in a crowd that applauds, but in the space between you and the ground when you bow. That is the moment the world disappears, and you finally feel seen. That is where you don't have to earn belonging, because you already are. In that quiet posture of surrender, your heart says everything words could never express. Every wound becomes a verse. Every breath becomes a prayer. Every tear becomes proof that you still believe. Prayer is where pretending ends. You don't have to explain why you're tired. You don't have to justify why you're broken. You simply come as you are. And the one who knows you beyond all masks listens. No spotlight, no audience, just presence, just peace. The world keeps teaching you to be seen, to be loud, to be remembered. But prayer teaches you the opposite: how to disappear and still matter, how to be unseen and still be loved, how to whisper and still be heard by the Lord of all that exists. When you bow, everything false collapses. Your titles fall away. Your fears fall silent. Your ego kneels beside your hope. And in that stillness, you realize something holy. You were never searching for belonging. You were searching for this moment of complete surrender. Every time you fall into prayer, you are returning home for a few minutes, back to where your soul came from, back to the peace it remembers, back to the nearness it's been craving. That's why prayer feels like relief after chaos. That's why your eyes sting without knowing why. Because every sujud is a reunion between your heart and its creator. And when you rise, you don't rise as the same person. You rise lighter, clearer, stronger, as if you've just been washed from the inside out. You keep thinking belonging means being surrounded, but look at every prophet. They were loved by Allah and often walked alone. Their peace didn't come from numbers, it came from nearness. They carried prayer like armor, and that connection made deserts feel like gardens. You too can carry that. You too can turn loneliness into a meeting place with Allah. When no one calls your name, whisper His. When no one sees your worth, remember that He already wrote it. You don't need the world to understand you. When the one who made your soul already does, you'll realize soon that the feeling of not belonging was never an absence, it was an invitation. Allah wasn't removing you from people, He was returning you to Himself. He was saying, come back to the place where peace lives, and the place where peace lives is on the prayer mat. In the pause between inhale and exhale, in the whisper that only He hears, there is no rejection there, no comparison, no exhaustion, only quiet mercy. Sometimes prayer will be soft, sometimes it will be messy. Sometimes you'll feel connected, sometimes you won't, but keep showing up. Because prayer is not about how you feel, it's about who is listening. Even on the nights when you cry without words, those tears are translation. They speak a language your Lord understands perfectly. The prayer mat is the only place where you can fall apart and still be safe. It's the only ground that turns collapse into connection. The longer you live, the more you realize how fragile every belonging is. Friends change, seasons shift, crowds fade. The faces you once thought would stay forever become names you barely whisper. At first that feels like loss, but with time you begin to see the mercy inside it. Because each time the world lets go of you, Allah is pulling you back to the only place that never changes, the prayer mat. That small piece of ground becomes the safest geography you will ever know. There are moments when life will scatter you everywhere. Work pulling one way, emotions another, dreams in pieces. And then one quiet evening, you kneel, whisper a single word, and everything aligns again. That's what prayer does. It gathers all the fragments and hands them back as peace. The world measures worth by visibility. Prayer measures worth by sincerity. It doesn't care about your resume, your mistakes, your past. It only asks, are you here? Are you honest? When you whisper, here I am, the universe listens too. Because the moment a servant bows, the creation itself pauses. Mountains, waves, even the wind recognize that posture. You are doing what you were designed for. One day, you will understand that the most loyal friend you ever had was not a person, but a prayer. It stood beside you when everyone else left. It carried your secrets when your voice broke. It waited patiently when you were distracted. It forgave you every time you returned late. Prayer never abandons you, you abandon it. And yet, it keeps calling your name through the rhythm of time. 5 invitations a day, endless mercy in return. So, answer the call. Not because you have to, but because it's the only place you can breathe without pretending. The more you pray, the more the world softens. Not because it becomes easier, but because your heart learns where to lay its burdens. Suddenly, pain still hurts, but it doesn't poison. Disappointments still come, but they don't destroy. You stop collapsing under the weight of things that never mattered. That's the miracle of belonging to prayer. You walk through storms without losing your center. You stop needing approval, because you already feel accepted by the one who matters. And slowly, prayer stops being something you do. It becomes something you are. Your heartbeat finds rhythm in remembrance. Your steps begin to echo gratitude. Even your silence becomes worship. You realize that belonging was never about location. It was about alignment. Every time you face the direction of prayer, you're realigning your entire being with mercy itself. Maybe that's why peace feels heavier than joy. Because joy can visit anyone, but peace only stays where remembrance lives. And remembrance lives in hearts that kneel often. So keep bowing, even when you feel nothing, even when words run dry, even when the world says it's useless, because every bow is seen, every tear recorded, every sigh answered. One day, when this life folds away, you'll finally meet the one you used to speak to in the dark, and you'll realize that every whispered prayer was a bridge leading home. You'll remember the nights you cried alone, and see how each tear turned into light on your path. You'll remember the mornings you prayed half awake, and realize they were being written as loyalty in the unseen. And in that final moment, when the world that never fit you disappears, you'll finally feel what you were searching for all along, belonging without end. So tonight, when you feel unseen, spread your hands and whisper, "I don't need the world to know me. I just need you to hear me." And he will, because he always does. That is, you don't need to belong anywhere, just in prayer. Maybe now you finally understand. You were never lost, you were being guided. The reason nothing feels like home anymore is because Allah has been preparing your soul for a higher one. You don't fit in with the world, because you were never meant to. Your peace doesn't live in crowds. It lives in prayer. It lives in silence. It lives in the moment your forehead touches the ground, and you whisper, "I'm home." Every time you feel unseen, remember it's not that people forgot you. It's that Allah covered you, because not every eye deserves to see the version He's shaping. So, when the loneliness returns, don't run from it. Sit with it, close your eyes, and say, "Ya Allah, if this emptiness brings me closer to you, then don't take it away." You don't belong everywhere. You belong where peace whispers your name. You belong where your heart bows and finally breathes. And maybe, just maybe, Allah didn't let you belong to this world, because He's saving you for the one where you'll never have to feel out of place again. Until then, keep praying, keep growing, keep glowing in silence. You are not forgotten. You are being refined. And one day, when the world finally sees what He's been building in private, they'll realize why He hid you for so long. You were never invisible. You were protected. You were chosen. You were loved all along.